Is the book going the way of the dodo? Is hard copy an endangered species? And do we read as well as we used to? I really don't know, but I've got two gentlemen on the set who are bound to have opinions on those topics and more. I'm Dan MacLennan. This is FaceTime and a tale of two Trevors. Joining me in the studio, Trevor McMonagle. He's a teacher, he is a bookseller, and he's also one of the co-creators, founders of Words on the Water, Campbell River's Writers Festival, which is going into its 11th year, coming up in March. Joining Trevor McMonagle is Trevor Herriot, the Haig Brown writer-in-residence, also a participant in the Words on the Water Festival. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Let's take care of some business first. Words on the Water coming up March 23rd and 24th at the Maritime Heritage Center, the 11th year.
Exactly.
Did you think you were going to get to 11 years when you first started this dream of an idea?
I think when we started, excuse me, we thought we would get through one and be very, very happy. Some of the people who were quite nervous and thought maybe it wouldn't work at all thought they might have to remortgage their houses to pay for the Writers' Festival. But I think all of us thought that would be worth it, actually. It would be a great expenditure of money, go into debt for a Writers' Festival. Well, as it turned out, we were very fortunate and we had very kind sponsors and generous audience members. So after the second year, we only thought about it and didn't worry about it. And then by the third year, we felt we were going. And we never thought about ending. We just thought about doing it each year after each year. And here we are.
Here we are at 11. How does year 11 differ from year 1?
From year 1. Well, in year 1, we had quite a small audience during the day on Saturday. I remember we were up in the odd-shaped room in the community center.
That's right.
And Gary Geddes stood up and read his poetry to maybe 50 people. And we were delighted that 50 or 60 people were there all day Saturday. So it certainly differs in size. It differs in venue. After the Maritime Heritage Center was built, we knew, even from looking at it from the outside of that building, that that would be the right place for Words on the Water, building on the water, boat from the water, in the building. So Words on the Water had to be there, and sure enough, the room built from old-growth forest, from timbers hauled out from bridges and trellises in the forest.
The floor from the old community
center.
The
floor from the old community center, the link, the transition was obvious and so right. So the venue's different. And the audience, of course, and I think the sense of confidence that the festival has. We know what it looks like. It looks the same every year. People talk together on Friday night and have lots of food and good music. People listen to writers individually on Saturday and have lots of food and good music and end the day with laughing. So the look is confident now. I think there's an assurance about the festival.
In some ways, moving into the Maritime Heritage Center for the first time still felt like a bit of a homecoming because it seems so right. Looking out over the water, looking out over the pier. Now, you're also part of that small group of people who helped to bring a writer-in-residency to Campbell River in the form of the Haig Brown writer-in-residence.
That's right.
And this year, Mr. Trevor Herriot is the writer-in-residence. You arrived here late?
Mid-November. Mid-November. And I've been here for a few months now. I've got about a month and a half left, and I can see the grains of sand rapidly falling down my little hourglass of time at Campbell River. I'm loving it. It's just been wonderful. I've had some of the best days of writing I think I've had in my life here, particularly the first 40 days or so. I was here alone. My wife and daughter remained home. I'm from Regina, so they were at home for that part, and while I was here alone, I got a lot of work done. It's been very good.
But then when your wife and daughter show up, you're suggesting maybe you're not getting as much work done.
Life gets a little richer when other people are around, but my wife helps out and does all the work, so in some ways it's been good in different ways. But you know, there's a certain energy about being alone. It's like being on a little retreat, you know, where you're really just you and your soul and the page, and the nature around you there in the Haig Brown House is so inspiring. Whether you're a naturalist writer or not, it's just very enriching. And then there's the whole heritage of Haig Brown and his writing, and you feel steeped in a place that's about literature and it's about writing. And so it's been a tremendous environment for me. And everybody I've talked to about the experience of being a Haig Brown writer in resident says the same thing. Your writing goes very well, and you just feel the presence of genial spirits the whole time.
Is there, do you feel any pressure? I mean, you are sitting there in as far as Campbell River is concerned,
Yeah.
and others, you're sitting on hallowed ground.
Oh, absolutely. Certainly some pressure to treat the house well and the grounds, you know, but also to just take advantage of that opportunity, you know. Not everybody gets to be in such a blessed house and piece of land to do their writing. So really I feel a responsibility to make the best of it and to do a good job of what I'm working on right now.
Now, do you write down there in the library overlooking the river, or do you have a favorite spot in the house?
I don't go into the library that often. I love to go there just in the evening sometimes and just look around at the thousands of books that the Haig Browns collected. But I tend to write, surprisingly enough, in the kitchen, partly because I'm a bird watcher and a naturalist. I love the view to the south you get through the trees. The birds are coming right to the feeders at the window. And there's a different energy there because that's where Anne Haig Brown was all the time. And the more I learn about Anne, the more I respect the kind of person she was and her particular interests in nature and spirituality and writing. We're a little different than Roderick's, but I can feel her presence in the kitchen. I like writing there.
It feels like far more of a social center when you come into the house. The kitchen is right there, and if you're there for any sort of function, people are sort of gathering and milling in the kitchen anyway. So there is an energy to the room. But there is more to the Haig Brown writer in residency than watching birds and writing from the kitchen. You've got all sorts of other things going on here.
Yeah, there's several public events that I'm involved in. I'm doing a workshop on nature writing for local nature writers that's coming up in a couple weeks. Unfortunately, I think that's pretty well filled up. I'm doing a talk on Earth Day or Earth Night, you know, the night where we all shut off the lights for an hour, Earth Hour I think it's sometimes called. We're going to do a talk there actually about the Haig Brown legacy. So and what it is to live well in the land. It's kind of a
Trevor
lecture.
Unplugged then?
Totally, yeah. We'll have candles.
Okay.
And then, in addition to that, of course, you know, we've got writers coming. I've got writers coming with their own work, their poetry or short stories and so on that they're looking for assistance on. 40% of my time and responsibility is to help emerging writers here in the local area with their work.
And we've got no shortage of those.
Yeah, there's a pretty good flow. I've got 4 or 5 right now in the queue that I'm working with, and there's always a steady group coming. Yeah.
And there's one other event too on the 29th, next Wednesday.
Okay.
At 6:30 in the evening. You're going to be at Stillwater Books and Art.
That's right.
With a local nature writer, Harold Macy.
This will be fun. I'm reading Harold's book right now, The 4-Story Forest. I think he's been reading one of mine. So we're going to have a good talk in public with people and talk, you know, together with them about what it is to write in it with a commitment to a certain kind of landscape. For him, it's forest. For me, it's been the grassland.
So it's being billed as 2 sages from the forest and grasslands, 2 wise men talking together about the human relationship with the natural world.
Now, in addition to words on the water this year is birds on the water.
Right. Right. I suggested when you know, I knew as a part of my Haig Brown House responsibilities that I would be one of the people invited to be a reader at the Words on the Water Festival, and I talked to Trevor about it. I said, well, sometimes when I go to writers' festivals, I offer a bird walk because one of the things I'm known for is being a naturalist and a bird watcher. So it's fun to do that, to connect with that interest in birds with an interest in words. And Words on the Water rhymes nicely. Birds on the Water. Why don't we just do a little, you know, bird walk one of the mornings? So I think it's the Saturday morning.
Saturday morning, 7 o'clock at the Spit. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. That seems like a good spot to do it. Yeah.
Tyee Spit, also known as Dick Murphy Park now.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
Good. Yeah.
So
there's always lots of birds there. I go there quite regularly.
So the coffee crowd will be down there at 7 o'clock in the morning for a bird chat before the proceedings get underway for the full day session back
at 9 o'clock.
At 9 o'clock at the Maritime Heritage Center.
Yeah, we'll go for a little walk. I'm going to have my spotting scope with me, and we'll see what's out on the sea and what's in the estuary.
And hopefully the weather is just a tad better than it is today.
Yeah, it will be.
So there's all sorts of things going on at Words on the Water. One of the things I wanted to ask you about earlier is there's this image of the lonely writer squirreled away somewhere. And yet when you bring together writers for a writers' festival, what is it like collecting the various personalities, some of whom might be very introverted, some might be very extroverted, and putting them together? There is a certain critical mass of energy that develops when the Writers' Festival is on and is moving, where you can see people start to feed off of each other, some more so than others. What has it been like over the years working those personalities?
Well, it's been very good. We've been extremely happy and thankful for the way the festival has worked out. We put quite a bit of thought into what writers we choose, and we try to have a balance of men and women, of younger and older writers, of nonfiction and fiction writers. We always want to have somebody writing poetry. And then we also think of performance styles from what we know. We don't always know very much, but often we do. Perhaps we've had a recommendation, or we've listened to people on the radio, or sometimes we know people personally. Other writers recommend people. And we try and get a group of people that will fit well together. As far as I know, we've never had writers insult each other or fight. That could be very, very interesting.
Fist fights on Saturday night?
Fist fights on Saturday night, people yelling, like the Brits do. The Brits are so good at insulting each other. And they have poison pens all the time and make a living from that. But Words on the Water writers, you wouldn't like that.
We're Canadians.
We're Canadians.
Too polite for that.
And we're in BC. We're cool. We're relaxed. It's cash. It's Vancouver Island.
Right.
And the writers have been wonderful together, very, very respectful of each other. Often, writers will go to most or all of the other writers' readings. And to me, that's the mark of commitment and respect. If a professional writer listens to another writer.
And you have a little bit of socializing as well. Is it beforehand? You do a dinner?
On Saturday evening, the one treat that the committee gives itself is dinner with the writers. So between the Saturday afternoon sessions and the Saturday evening cabaret, we go out for supper together, and that's nice.
You've got a really exciting lineup this year. You always seem to come up with very current writers.
Yes.
This is not a backwater when it comes to bringing in authors of renown. And I have to assume over the years, maybe has it become a little easier to get people to come here as word starts to spread, that it's a nice place and they have some fun?
Well, I think the first thing I'd say is that when we began, and we talked to Gary Geddes, who's a very prominent Canadian poet and anthologizer, whom I had the good fortune to meet at UVic. He said, well, invite this person, invite that person, do this, don't do that, try this, don't try that. He said, you'll have no problem getting writers. It's the audience you have to work at.
Right.
And that has been the case, although we've been very, very fortunate with audience. But writers do want a public hearing. As you said, writers, of course, spend their time, by the nature of their work, alone. They want to get out. They want to have some fun. They want to meet their audience.
You want to let the hair down.
And this is one of the wonderful things about Words on the Water, that it's small enough, 8 writers, that's what we've come to, 8 writers, and 200 people in the audience.
Particularly the Saturday night. After we've been through the opening discussions on Friday, and we've had a chance to hear everybody on Saturday, there's kind of you can feel a relaxing atmosphere, and you're encouraging these creative people to bring different projects forward for the Saturday night.
That's right.
It's always quite an interesting wrap-up.
That's right. And in the time between sessions, people can come as close as I am to Trevor Herriot. See, yeah, maybe they can even touch, shake hands. I love your work. How about this? Can you explain this to me? Or, I really like when you said this. Well, how does this fit? You can do that at Words on the Water. Oh, and sign my book, please. I paid for it.
Now, you spoke about the audience. Our intrepid FaceTime Streeter crew has gone back out and hit the pavement and essentially asked you what you're reading.
I often just read a book that just takes me far away, and absolute escapism book.
What did I just read Water for Elephants. That was a really good one. And even the movie was good.
The Hunger Games. I'm a teacher and I want to get caught up with what the kids are so excited about. Yeah.
What do you get out of reading?
Again, I think it's just that time at the end of the day when I can just escape from reality and just entrench myself in a different place, time and a place.
I read biographies on musicians. That's what I'm really into. So.
What do you get out of reading?
I kind of want like information about stuff. So I'm not really big on reading fantasy that much, but yeah.
I really do like to read actually The Intention Experiment right now. It's a really good book. Yeah, my dad actually told me to read it. It's good.
What do you get out of reading?
Just kind of takes me out of my zone and lets me be in a different world, right? Not in your own, and you're just living through fantasy or finding out stuff you just didn't know about.
I read mostly on internet, the current events, what's happening to our community and around the world.
I really like reading because I find that's my best way to retain information and knowledge, so I prefer that over videos and CDs and things like that. So I enjoy reading. I find it a good pastime. It gives me a lot of pleasure, actually, because I relax when I read.
Well, mostly I just read the newspapers. Sometimes I read the magazines like People or Maclean's, but mostly it's just newspapers.
What do you get out of reading?
Well, helps you find out what's going on in the world. Makes me a lot more knowledgeable.
While we're recommending books, there's such a plethora to choose from this year when we look at the authors who are coming. You've got one there in particular you wanted to mention, Trevor.
I've got one here. This author will not be physically at the festival, but he will be emotionally and spiritually. This is Roderick Haig Brown, of course, the man with whose spirits you live, Trevor. And fortunately, there has been a new issuing of his classic, Measure of the Year. And this is his book about living in the house on the river in about 1950. It's about him, his family, his activities, his visitors, and his work as a conservationist. It's a book that I think should be actually in every household in Canada.
It's the ultimate Haig Brown book.
It's the ultimate Haig Brown. It's the ultimate conservationist book, and in a way, it's the ultimate Canadian book. There's my pitch. Canada reads.
Canada reads.
You can't go wrong. This book has the special attribute that it has an introduction by a former writer-in-residence at the Haig Brown House, and that's Brian Brett. And Brian Brett tells the wonderful story of the time a bear came to the house in the snowstorm, knocked at the back door, and he went out with a stick of wood in his hand to chase it away, and it did chase away. And when he checked on the front step, sure enough, it had sat down, and its bum print was on the steps of the Haig Brown House. And he saw it just disappearing into the snow and felt for a moment that that was Haig Brown's spirit having just touched him.
And how many people can say they found a bear's bum print on their front door?
And it turned into a great writer's spirit.
Indeed. Now,
other books?
Why? Well, let's get into some basic theory here. Why is it important to have a writers' festival in Campbell River, in such a out-of-the-way backwater as our community, to bring people in to celebrate the power of, I was going to say the spoken word, but it's maybe the power of the written word we should be focusing on.
And that is the key. We believe that words have power. And I was just reading a book review about Charles Dickens' letters. Of course, this is the 200th anniversary of Charles Dickens' birth. So there's lots being written about Charles Dickens. Well, he was a voluminous letter writer. In his day in London, the mail could come 10 times in a day. It's like our email, I guess. And he wrote and wrote and wrote. But he also read. He was probably the greatest performer ever. He was the Shane Koizan of his day, but better. And he wrote about that, of course. And I just want to read a little bit. It says, "The letters show how cruelly Dickens drove himself from reading to reading in his later years, raking in money, but ruining himself." Trevor, you have a future.
Raking in money and ruining yourself.
He had only to make a speech, and the damp-eyed audience would reach for their pocketbooks, recite their own stories, and hear 2,000 people gasp and cry. There was no heartstring safe from his grasp. Even a hardened pro like the actor William Macready buckled under the assault and could be discovered undisguisedly sobbing and crying on the sofa as Dickens read. And I want to say that words move us. We had that in the folks who were interviewed. A number of them said how it takes them to another world, how deeply it moves them. And I can remember Wason Choi being at Words on the Water and telling us quietly, reverently, how he died and came back to life and changed his life philosophy because of that. And we were weeping. And I can remember how Gregory Schofield, a Métis writer who had lived on the downtown east side, told us about his loss and loneliness and his shock when he discovered that his father, living in England, was Jewish. He only knew that 2 years before he came to the festival. And we cried. And I think that when Trevor Herriot speaks this year and tells us that the sage grouse is disappearing from the Canadian prairies, we'll be deeply moved. And that's why Words on the Water, because words move us. Words go deep, deep inside us.
No pressure, Trevor.
Bring your Kleenex to Words on the Water.
Bring the Kleenex.
But it's also a place where there's lots of fun to be had as well.
Yeah.
Well, there is fun. We've invited Terry Follis this year.
Oh, yeah.
He's outside of our normal purview. He's from Ontario. That's the other side of Canada. Well, it's central Canada.
And he's going to make us laugh.
He's going to make us laugh. So bring your Kleenex, because he'll make you laugh till you cry. And many people have already read his political satire. Very, very timely. He has a Liberal member of Parliament who actually keeps his word. It's a shocking thing. We've got Trevor Herriot's 3 books here.
So this is fiction, right?
Beautiful. But
Totally fiction.
it's totally fiction.
Okay.
About to become nonfiction when everyone gets converted.
We'll see.
Trevor Herriot's books, of course, and then Susan Juby. Susan Juby writes both for a young adult audience and for an adult audience, and she's very, very funny. And she will also make us laugh. So we'll have the moving of the reams of laughter. We'll have the moving of the tears, and we'll have the quiet thoughtfulness as well.
Introspective moments.
The introspective moments.
A little bit of time left. I saw our streeters were out in front of the library. Our intrepid streeter team obviously picked a good spot to talk to people about books. But in the library these days, there is a little device taking over. The e-reader is revolutionizing the world of books. Some would say to the good, some would say not. But what are your thoughts? How is it changing? How is it changing the writer's world? The fact that publishers do not, books are not published the way they were only a few years ago.
There's certainly a lot of hand-wringing going on. People are thinking about it all the time. We're all wondering, how do we take advantage of that? What does that mean for the way I write and the way I try to get my books published? You know, in some ways, it may be making us a little, or sharpening us on our game a bit. You know, you have to really find out why you want this book. Why am I breaking the silence? Why am I going to write something at all? Because it's a very demanding, competitive world out there, and publishers their margins are shrinking, bookstores their margins are shrinking, so everybody's a little more nervous about the financial side of things, and that just makes you sharper, I think. You know, you got to really have a good book that you want to sell to the publisher, and you know, in the end, that's good things for readers. For writers, it's going to be a mixed bag, probably. But in the long run, it's all going to be good for us. I can't see any reason to be afraid of it. I don't happen to have one of those readers myself. I love the physical book, but certainly I understand that young people are going to want to read from that kind of a device, and it certainly makes it more accessible. If it gets more people reading, then it's all good. One thing is, you know, the question of attention span, and you know how it changes things. We're always referring now to attention span. Is that change the way I'm supposed to write? You know, short paragraphs, smaller sentences, have to be short and punchy, that kind of thing. We don't want to go there necessarily. We want to be able to bring the readers along with us and not abandon all of our standards. But it's all that stuff I'm talking about. That's kind of mix of what we're thinking about.
It's got to raise concerns for booksellers.
Yeah.
People are saying, I have an e-reader and I read my books. Many people are saying, I have my e-reader for travel. You know, the airlines are charging people for the most minuscule thing they can.
Right, you can bring your library in a small e-reader.
And books aren't minuscule. And so an e-reader makes a lot of sense. A number of people are saying, I've bought an e-reader and I use it sometimes, but not always. So people want to be able to touch a book. I remember when Marjorie Doyle was at the Writers' Festival, she talked about a rather odd, old-fashioned thing, which she called the book. She was from Newfoundland. And then she held up her pencil and said, this, for those of you who don't know, is a pencil. Is that just anachronistic? I don't think so. I think we're moving to a world where it's both and, not either or. I think book publishers are also talking about making books increasingly appealing, more of a work of art, more of something that people would desire. So perhaps the pocketbook will go, because people who read pocketbooks read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them and then discard them. Many people do that. Why not have it electronically? But books, no. They're going to continue to evolve.
Books will still be there. I find it's a generational thing. When it comes to proofing text, if you hand me the screen version of a paragraph and hard copy, I'm bad at both, but I can pick mistakes. I can read more into hard copy than I can off of a screen. And maybe that's just because I didn't grow up reading everything off of the screen. But that's obviously going to play a part in things as well.
I think so.
So Words on the Water, March 23rd, 24th.
And get your tickets this month.
Before the end of February at the Tidemark Theatre.
The early bird special goes until March 29th, $65 for the weekend pass. It's the best deal. It's about half price. It'll be a wonderful festival. Tickets at the Tidemark.
And time is running short for that early bird special. Gentlemen, the two Trevors, Trevor Herriot, Haig Brown writer in residence, and Trevor McMonagle, co-creator of the Words on the Water Writers Festival in Campbell River. Thank you both for joining us.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
It has been my pleasure. We have to take care of a little bit of business. Viewer comment segment. So nice to have viewer comments so that we can read. If we can find the right camera, there we go. You may recall Walter Jakeway, Campbell River Mayor, was our first guest. Jeremy sent us an email saying, I really enjoyed the show. Just saw a link to it on Twitter. Great interview with Walter. Only thing that would make the show better would be if you shortened or removed the wiggly FaceTime creative intros. Looking forward to future episodes. Well, thanks for that. Someone by the name of McFeety sent us a message on YouTube after our interview with Jobs, Tourism and Innovation Minister Pat Bell. McFeety said, nice. I hate the flowers though. Get a clock or a statue. How about a skyline in the background? You guys got a problem with our flowers?
Are they growing?
Matter of taste. I like flowers.
We'll take that under advisement. And we also interviewed We Wakeham councillor Jason Price, and Ranting in CR sent us a message on YouTube saying, here's an idea. The City of Campbell River and the Campbell River Band get together to develop the 6 or 3.5 acre site, depending on what you call it, into a cross-cultural community asset. Build it around a new regional library with education and interpretive centers for First Nations culture, marine science, and joint venture visitor center. Imagine a visitor center actually on the highway. What a concept. Both governments can raise the capital needed through grants and project monies. One way to get both communities working together. Well, if you have comments you wish to make to FaceTime, here's how you do it. Please visit FaceTime. We're at facebook.com/FaceTime4U, and that's the number 4. FaceTime for you. You can like us and leave us your comments. You can tell your friends about us. And you can also email us at face-time@shaw.ca. And so ends FaceTime Volume 4 and the Tale of Two Trevors. I'm Dan MacLennan. Thanks for sharing some FaceTime.